Hi, and welcome to Indie Office Hours. Charlotte Pierce is my co host on this show. She is still out of the country, having a wonderful time traveling around Europe. And today, our subject is how to tell your book story. And I'm lucky enough to have Don Stevens back with us. I don't know if you remember, but he was on one of our prior shows. And he's also been a guest on The Writing Biz. Don has a lot of experience in his background as in marketing, which he has brought to the table with his indie publishing business, and he does a great job for his authors. And I'm going to ask Don to explain a little bit to us about what. First of all, go ahead and introduce yourself, and then I'll start asking you questions.
Well, thanks for having me back, Laura. I'm the owner of Finger Lakes Copywriting, which does marketing for small businesses, including authors in some wineries in the Finger Lakes region of upstate New York. I am also the owner and publisher of Merge Publishing, which is a small independent publisher. We have fiction, and we are planning on launching 4 books this year and doubling that next year. So our first release, which is a book by Marcy Deal, What You Don't Know Now, will be available actually within a couple of weeks on Amazon and Barnes& and Noble and Apple, etc.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. That all keeps you very busy.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Well, thanks for making the time for us today. This is what I'd like to know. I know that we have a lot of indie publishers and authors that watch this show, and like we were discussing in the green room, sometimes there's a bit of a disconnect between the need for marketing, getting the marketing done, is the education and understanding component of it. So, what new author comes to you and they haven't really done a lot of marketing for themselves in the past? What would be the first thing as a publisher that you would expect from that new author? Or how would you guide them into understanding what they need to do to help with the marketing?
Well, considering their work is publishable um, and considering if we can find a market for that, I would suggest that they learn about marketing and have their own tools. For instance, create an author platform for themselves, uh, discover other writers in their genre, and discover more about the publishing field itself. Because I think the biggest thing that one of the biggest things that I encounter is authors. They Most of the authors feel like they have the best-selling book. They have the new 50 Shades of Grey, or et cetera, and they're going to be a best-selling author and sell millions or hundreds of thousands of copies. So I think a reality check would be
Right.
first and foremost, and learning that not everything can be done by the publisher, if anything, marketing-wise, because that's another misconception, is that the publisher takes care of all the marketing, which some may do, big house publishers and the major ones, but not small press or independent publishers.
Right, right. Yeah, I found that in my own experience with it, that the same thing. It Trying to get my thoughts in order. Like I said, I have a cold, so I'm a little fuzzy. Um, as far as the author, what suggestions you could make? What pieces of their book or their business could they use to help propel their marketing? Things like the different characters. What would you suggest that they could help propel them?
Well, there's several things that they could do. The plot itself, the story, characters, like you said, a lot of it is setting. One of the writers, Marcy Deal from Merge, she does tweets and social media posts with the different areas in Europe where her story takes place, like such as Greece, along the beach, etc. And that gives you a sense of atmosphere of where the book is. That's one of the things you can do. And we describe others as well. The passion of the story. Um, for instance, I'm writing a wine mystery myself, so I can talk about different wines even before the book comes out, with a little blurb. Check out the book, when it comes out, etc. So the story itself is one thing. If you have a history of publishing before, or a history of writings before, or your job or your locale could be something you can write about. Anything to promote the book, but it has to tie in with the book. You know, don't market something that doesn't tie in with the book.
Right, right. I mean, you don't want to hit anybody with buy, 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 but you want to have that same, either it's directing it back to your website where your book's available, or to the book itself, or something like that. I understand exactly what you're saying. I saw something recently that was real interesting, and it was a book on, it was a fiction book, and it had to do with the CIA, and you know, one of those spy mystery type books.
Mm-hmm.
But they had tied in today's news about the, it was it the, I don't remember. It was the NSA had done something about that had to do with some top secret things with the CIA, and they tied that into that. So I think that sometimes you can look to the news and see if there's any information that's coming out that can help you move your book. You know, to keep it timely and.
Exactly. Relevant content and topics are great. If there's a character in your book that has the same feel or is very similar to like a celebrity or a famous person, you know, you can tie that into as long as they're trending, etc.
Right.
Similarly, the way we market stories, I write a lot of press releases for different clients with Finger Lakes Copywriting, and it's always great to have a hook, and the hook is to tie it in with something that's relevant or going on right now, topics such as you said, such as this virus that's going on, you know, that they're working on. If your story contains something similar to that, then you know, by all means, you know, you should tie it in and at least write about it, do a blog post about it, tweet about it, etc., or you know, write a news release about it, and you know, submit it to some local editors, some newspapers, etc., reporters. So that's one great way to tie in to make your story shine.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Another thing that I've noticed too is on the book jackets, you know, on a hardcover book, the book jacket, of course, whatever information is on that flap is super, super important to get people to understand what your story is. What I have noticed is sometimes that does not seem to translate as well into the ebook format. And by that, what I mean, when people write their description for their ebooks, sometimes they don't take into consideration that that is their book's jacket. That description is that same information. And you need to think about it that way and give the information for the reader to really want to read your book.
Yeah, and my suggestion, or basically would be that, because it's one of my pet thieves, are long descriptions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as we discussed before in previous shows, readers don't have time. I mean, they're investing time just to read about your book and to read the book. So, you know, you want to give them a snippet, you want to give them a teaser about your book. Don't make it into something really long that takes them, you know,
Sure.
10 minutes to read just an introduction to see if they want to buy your book.
Yeah, and another thing is in that description, because you can use that same description other places, make sure that that first 2 or 3 sentences explains your book, even if you write more, because a lot of times, depending on what media you're using, you'll be cut off after a certain point, and then it'll go like to a read more. So make sure that those first 2 or 3 sentences really explain what your book's about, because that way when you translate it into other areas, it makes sense.
Exactly. With SEO and websites, because I also make websites for authors and for businesses, small businesses, to medium-sized business, I always tell them, for the description and SEO tags, your headline has to be 70 characters, etc. There's certain rules. If you go over, it'll show up, but Google won't list it. Description is the same thing. You have so many characters, you know, so make sure your prominent, most powerful sentences are in the beginning, because they will cut off. The same goes for a writing jacket or your ebook description, or when you're doing, you know, your description in Amazon. You know, your most powerful sentences should go in the beginning, because you don't know where it's going to cut off, and it's great for SEO too if you have your description for the book or your keywords towards the beginning.
Absolutely, and Google authorship is an absolute must. If you're a writer doing anything, whether you're writing a book, you're writing articles, blog posts, whatever, Google authorship is an absolute must, because it is Google's, and they are going to rank you according to that authorship. You have to really, a lot of people are, I mean, I've read some articles lately, you know, they took the picture out of Google authorship and all this, and they think, well, Google authorship is dead. It's not at all. It's still a very important component.
The websites I create all come with Google authorship, because having more people in your circles, if someone shares your article, your blog post, all help with ranking. And if anything, it gives your blog and your posting itself more authority.
So, you know, we should probably do a show on SEO for publishers, because it is difficult to understand, but there are some very simple things that you can do that could completely change the way that your website works. And I think that we should probably do a show on that, because that could be kind of a hard thing to understand. If you have it laid out a little bit, it'll make it easier.
Absolutely.
What else I want to talk about? I wanted to talk about the not only the authorship in Google Plus, but your author blurb, to make sure that all this information translates across all your profiles on social media and anywhere that you place your book, where they give you a place for your author bio. Try to make the information as consistent as possible, because that helps with rankings. And that way, when your name is searched or something about you, you'll come up. But to be consistent all the way across, it might sound cool to do everything different. I'll do this different here and this different there, and you know, it's more creative, but it really doesn't work across the internet to do that. The consistency is important.
Yes, having a consistent author profile pic, a blurb, and I suggest having a PR background to have 2 author blurbs, a long one and a short one. Again, it's length because some reporters or some newspaper, media services will only allow a certain amount of information. So if you have 2 readily available, especially when you develop it in your media kit or press kit, have 2 author bios, a short one and a long one. And they can have the same information. One is just longer.
Yeah, it makes it definitely easy for the people on the other side, you know, the media people and things that are looking at it, definitely. I also wanted to talk about how, as a publisher, you can help on your website promote your author's books and give them a bit of something that they can work with, that they can move through their channels.
Well, one of the things you could do is, of course, social media is one of the things you can do. What we're planning on doing is having a podcast or a blog talk post or Blog Talk Radio, having myself interview the author that we're publishing in Merge Publishing or on Merge, and having a one-on-one with them. Another thing we can do to help them promote the book is perhaps a giveaway. Have an ebook version or print version if we can help do a giveaway. That's one thing a publisher can do. I think no matter what size, even if it's a small press publisher such as myself or an independent publisher, they can still provide some marketing for their authors in simple ways that are cost effective to help nurture the author's career, especially new authors who are new into the game.
Right. I've noticed too that on Twitter particularly, and I'm starting to see it on Google Plus more, but on Twitter particularly, there's some new authors that are really gaining traction and getting their name out there and getting information out there. But it's not necessarily by using the information of their book, but by creating more dynamic presence. Do you know what I mean? I mean, it's more by offering. Go ahead.
Well, I'm not a big Twitter user, although a lot of writers I know are,
Mm-hmm.
and they they do they're very smart um, to handle, to be able to do Twitter, which is several conversations going on at once. And what they do is basically correspond with other writers and their readers and their fan base to talk about subjects such as we talked about, on-topic subject, trending topics. Um, they don't just plug the book, like you said, bye, bye, bye.
Right.
They do several things. And the most important thing they do on Twitter is to keep their audience or their followers engaged.
Yeah.
But a lot of people use it as their question and answers. A lot of people use Twitter. A lot of authors use it to get back to the readers when the readers ask questions on Twitter. So people do use it as a correspondence, as a contact. So I know a lot of authors that do use it for that reason as well.
Well,
Um,
I was thinking the other night, I'm a True Blood fan. So I was watching True Blood, and I was thinking that if you were a writer and your genre is vampires,
mhm.
that it would be really neat to do a live tweet chat
Oh yeah.
while you're watching True Blood, because most people that read the vampire books read several authors that write them. It's not just one author they stick with. They probably do like more. So I was thinking that would be a neat way to generate some engagement, is to find something that connects to you, what you're doing, and use that to kind of jump off with.
Absolutely. Having live chats when something major is going on, but it could be just an episode or two blog. For instance, the Oscars. People use the hashtags. And I know we're going to talk about hashtags in a second. Hashtag Oscars when the Oscars are going on, and I mean they like broke the record. I know they broke the record
Right.
with that one picture that was shared so many times. I mean that's what we're looking at. Um, that's what's transforming now when it comes to PR and marketing. Having hashtags and trending subjects and making even the most simple event, such as watching a television program, making it into a bigger event.
Right.
And
And how can you beat that? I mean, that on the fly, right that moment type of engagement with a reader. That's just it's amazing to me. It really is.
and it's free. It's free. That's great. I mean, the major thing you have to do is, once you reach that point, when you're doing it, it's free, is you just have to spend time getting your followers.
Right.
And that's another thing I'm sure you'll talk about
Yeah.
in the Twitter section when we talk about that. Or when we talk
Yeah.
about
That last week I had Christine DeGraff on, and we were talking about websites. I don't know if you know Christine, but she very well known on the Google Plus platform, but she also is a former graphic designer.
hmm
But we were talking. I had in prepping for that show, I had gone to several of the smaller publishing companies' websites, and I had looked at their landing page, the first page that you see, and I
hmm
noticed that a lot of them just had all about their publishing company.
hmm
And to me, that was backwards. To me, it should be about the books that you
hmm
have, and then mention your publishing company, and then have an about way for the publishing company. Because if somebody is going to your page to see if they want you to represent them, the first thing they're going to look for is how you're representing the books that are in your um, that you're carrying.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was wondering if you would agree with that. I hope you didn't just
I,
agree
I
to be
no,
nice,
I
because
do I do agree with it because with Merge Publishing we have I have a slider on the front
Mhm.
page which displays the author's books. And then when they click on it, it's an actual page or post describing, what we talked about, the bio, the plot, etc. That's all about the books itself. I mean, if they search and there's a button, why publish with us, our story, etc. But
Right.
it's not right smack in the beginning, because that's not what we're about. You want easy access to the authors, the books, and people who want to submit their work, they can't find it. You have to make that easily accessible too, but it doesn't have to be front and center.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of pulling your ego out of the picture and
Mhm.
thinking about what somebody expects when they go to your website or your social media profile or anything, what they expect to hear about and what they want to know about. It's not necessarily always about you. It you need to be a little more diverse than that. But
Mhm.
I did notice that, and it's a shame because some of them were, I wouldn't say super successful publishers, but are doing a pretty good job in the publishing field, and their websites were really a hot mess. So that's I mean, they really were. There was this one I can't I, I would
Let's not
never
mention
dare to
any
say the
names
person's
now,
name.
Laura.
I'm sorry.
Let's not mention any website names.
No, I won't. But I'm just
No.
it looked like something from 1989. It honestly
Oh
did.
yeah. Oh,
Absolutely
yeah.
horrible. Absolutely
Animated
horrible.
gifs and all, and music.
And there's too many free things out there for that to be necessary. I mean, it's just, as far as you can put up a what is it, Wix, Wix.com,
Yeah.
a Wix website in a couple of days that looks like you hired a designer. I mean, of course, it doesn't have all the it doesn't have as much functionality as doing it a different kind of platform, but enough that you can get it up there and get your point across. Um,
Exactly. I recommend, like we said, WordPress
yeah.
or something other than the free website softwares out there,
And
because you want to keep your domain, you want to keep your
oh,
hosting,
sure,
you want to
sure.
have, and you want, as your publishing business grows, you want to grow with your website. You don't want to be locked into something that's free or could be gone tomorrow.
I absolutely agree with that. And the thing is, there's two schools of thought. One that WordPress is difficult to use, and one that WordPress isn't. WordPress is not difficult to use. And
Yeah.
if you have a problem with almost anything on WordPress, ask YouTube, and there's a video that will guide you through the whole thing. I mean, honestly, it's gotten that popular and that prevalent out there that it really is not difficult.
And there's several website forums that you can go to.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, it also like on Google Plus too. You can go into the WordPress help communities, and there's people just sitting around waiting to help somebody. So
Hmm.
it really it's not something to be scared about. But yeah, I think that it's just a matter of understanding. And you hear this all the time. I probably shouldn't even say it. Understanding what your market is and what they want. And it's such a trite comment because it's so broad, and what that entails. But I think publishers need to sit back and think about what they can offer as advice to their new authors, like we were talking earlier. What kind of information you can give a new author, resources that you can give them that helps them kind of get a handle on their social media, because they probably don't have the experience that a publisher has, and that way they can maybe you know ease the transition a little bit and build up their platform a bit faster.
Hmm. I assume that the author, if I don't know them personally,
Hmm.
that the author doesn't know about marketing. And what I do is look into it, search their names, search see if they're on social media, search and see, what kind of writing career they had or they have, or if they publish things, articles and such in the past. Um, if I don't see anything, I just assume that they don't know about marketing, and not in uh, I say that in a light sense, meaning, it's a careful thing and to talk with them and to ask them, what have you done? Have you published anything, articles, newspapers? Are you on social media? Do you have a Twitter account, etc.? Have you written short stories? Have you ever submitted them? So it's always a light discussion that I have with them, and it doesn't um, it doesn't make my decision whether or not to publish them. And I know a lot of small press publishers say if the writers or people submitting don't have their own following or platform or their dedicated media or marketing fan base, they won't publish them. That's not my criteria. It helps if you have your own fan base, but if you don't, um, that's not an issue because as we discussed, in this world, it doesn't take long. And one of the jobs of the small press publisher is to have their own fan base already and to help the authors with their marketing. Not take over completely because they have to.
Yeah, but give them access.
So give them access, give them the tools. There are several things that I offer my authors, whether they want to print, the POD, whether they want to be included in Ingram, whether they want to be included in catalogs that go out to bookstores nationwide or email,
right,
etc. Some of these things are free. Some of these things are not free, but there's a lot of things we do free for authors that we will do with anybody that we publish. But there's certain things if they want to expand their list that they could do, and those are the things that cost money for us, for the publisher itself. It's, a lot of the things that I do are just time.
Okay.
Time and I'm investing time already in authors, so that's okay.
Let me ask you one more question, and then we're going to close out for the day.
Sure.
Do you find yourself sometimes, if an author says, I just don't have time to even deal with the marketing, do you find yourself in a position where you suggest maybe they hire somebody to do the marketing for them?
Yes. I think every author has time to market their own work and their own self. So it may be just a little bit of marketing. It could be, marketing includes, getting your book, getting a few copies of the book, and doing an author signing. If they don't have time to do an author signing, I'm not sure if if they don't believe in themselves, basically, it's not up to the publisher to do most of the believing in their work and the author. Right. They have to believe in themselves so much that they're willing to do something for their book and their career, not just write it and just hand it off to the publisher who's going to be a miracle worker. Even if the story is great, the publisher, any kind of publisher, wants to make sure that the author will help as much as possible.
Well, once you have your,
then just spreading the word and printing, not just selling the books themselves. If they can sell, they need to be able to sell their book in some way. And I know a lot of authors are withdrawn; they're introverts. And that's fine. Like we discussed, in this age, in the computer age, you don't have to physically be there to sell your books. If you can help promote it in some way, that'll be great.
Well, once you have yourself kind of organized on social media, it really shouldn't take you more than an hour a day to sit down and take care of your tasks for the day. But if you do it every day, an hour a day, the growth is going to be exponential. But if you're doing it once a week, you're going to get the growth that once a week's going to give you. I think that needs to be said for sure. We're going to go ahead and close out here, Don. If you would like to tell us what you're up to, what you have, like you said that Marcy has a book coming out. Tell us what's going on.
Her book will be published in a couple of weeks, the ebook version, and I think by the end of September, the print version will come out. We're doing an author book party launch as well. We'll be doing some giveaways, etc. So just go to mergepublishing.com and you can find out more about that. We have some more authors of publishing as well, including my book. Will be out in Finger Lakes Wine Mystery and Taste for Death. That's coming out, and we're still accepting submissions. And so if you submit, you can submit your work to Merge Publishing so we can read some sample chapters and see if we can publish the book and work with you.
Terrific. Sounds like you're busy. Next week our show is going to be Hard Knocks versus the Classroom. It's the best way to learn publishing. Did you find that it was easier to learn in the classroom or as you went? So that's going to be next week's show. Tomorrow night, and that'll be on Tuesday at noon also. Tomorrow night on The Writing Biz, I will be doing a show on Twitter, which is going to be pretty interesting. I'm trying to do a social media series. Last week I did organizing and simplifying your social media. This week is Twitter. Next week we're going to talk about Google Plus with Stefan Hovnanian. And then the fourth week, it's going to be kind of a mishmash of several of the other platforms: Facebook, Tumblr, Instagram, Pinterest, all the other ones. So it should be a pretty interesting show too. But then that's tomorrow night at 7:30. Don, thanks so much. I appreciate it as always. You always have some great things to share with us.
Thank you, Laura. I appreciate you asking me, and I look forward to seeing more of your shows.
Awesome. Cool. And Charlotte will be back next week, everybody. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm sure you are too. All right. Thanks a lot, Don.
Okay. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too.